Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of In the Gallery with Laura Ali. I am your host, Laura Ali, and today we are going to get into Charlie Adelson's cross-examination. I may have watched this cross-examination maybe 20, 30 times. Sometimes I fall asleep to it at night. It's so relaxing to me. This case, I became obsessed with this case for Charlie Adelson's trial. I heard whispers of this case years ago when they initially convicted Lewis, I believe, and Sigfredo, excuse me. But I didn't really look into it much until Charlie's trial. And once I did look into it, mm, 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 it's shocking. It's shocking the level of I don't think depravity is a word, but it's like you couldn't tell the Adelsons anything. We are the Adelsons. Okay? Like that's the energy and aura they exude. We are superior to all of you people, and we can do whatever we want to do. Now, if you're not familiar with the case, I'll give you a high level overview. Dan Markel was a professor at FSU, Florida State University, I believe. Um, excuse me. Well, I think it was in Tallahassee because I know there's a Florida State in Miami, and I was confusing that. But he was an FSU professor. I know that. He and his wife, Wendi Adelson, were in the middle of a contentious divorce. They had two young children, and they disputed over a few things. They disputed over they were Jewish, they're of the Jewish faith, and they disputed over how to raise their children within the Jewish faith. Of course, with any religion, you're going to have the more orthodox or the more strict sections of the religion versus those that are a little bit more loose, and they maybe just go to temple or church or mosque here and there, they just dabble. But it seemed like with Dan, he was leaning more towards raising their children in a more traditional fashion, which, by the way, I, it seems like that was a huge part of why their relationship when they were married was an issue. Like they argued over that constantly. I think that's something that should have been narrowed out or ironed out through dating. Just my opinion. I don't know which way it went. Maybe Dan did bring it up to Wendi, and Wendi was like, "Oh yeah, that's fine. I don't care." Or maybe he never brought it up to Wendi, and it was never a topic until the children were born. But I think overall, having those open and honest conversations about how you intend to raise your children is very important in terms of marriage and child rearing. I digress. So they were in a very contentious relationship or contentious divorce. They were lawyered up through the gills. Dan went through some attorneys. Wendi went through some attorneys. They both wanted to go for the jugular. Okay. So I don't think it was just one side being more mean to the other side. I don't. I think they both were being mean to each other. But the story that it spun is, if you're looking at it from Wendy's side, oh, Dan was being horrible and, all of that. And if you're looking at it from Dan's side, Wendy's being horrible. She is trying to keep my kids from me. Her mom is is saying some crazy stuff. Um, the mom even referenced Donna, whose trial is coming up very soon. Donna referenced dressing up the children like little Nazis. Like to set him off, or sending the kids to like a Christian based Catholic school or something, like crazy stuff, just to really set off Dan. So they weren't in a good place. This is back in 2014. I want to say this is just all off of memory. I didn't look up anything off of this case. I've watched it so much, I don't think I need to look up anything. I want to say it was like around June or July of 2014 when this occurred. This murder occurred. So the 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 story is Dan goes to the gym. He goes to Planet Fitness that morning. I want to say it was like June 14th or July 14th, one or the other. He goes to the gym in the morning. He heads back home after the gym. He pulls into his driveway. It's like a garage. So he opens up the garage, pulls in, pop pop, pop pop. I believe the neighbor, now this neighbor is ride or die. The neighbor, I believe, saw a suspicious car, a car that you wouldn't see in the neighborhood. I don't know if he heard the gunshots. I think he did, because it all happened very quickly. It wasn't like he was just discovered. I want to say the neighbor heard the gunshots, and the neighbor's like in his 80s or so now and still remembers the day like it was yesterday. Okay, he still gave all the details when he testified. So they call 911, paramedics are dispatched, police are dispatched. Who killed this professor? It's clearly a murder. It's not a suicide. That's for sure. Who killed him? Who would have had motive to kill him? He's a law professor. So that's kind of just what happens. What we later then find out is there were two people that came up from Miami to murder Dan Markel. Sigfredo Garcia and Lewis, I'm blanking on his last name right now, but he's the one that has testified the most. Um, oh, that's going to irritate me. I might need to look that up. Oh, that's going to irritate me. I might need to look that up. I'm sorry, guys. But so Sigfredo and Lewis come up to murder Dan Markel. They're the ones who commit the murder, and the police kind of find that out very quickly. They're in a rental car. There's video footage, there's bus footage of them in this rental car driving up. They have their cell phones, or at least a burner phone that is still linked to one of them. Um, so there was a lot of evidence where they caught them up very quickly. They obviously offered Sigfredo and Lewis deals. Why are you killing this professor? What prompted you to kill this professor? They say they were hired by the dentist to kill the professor. The dentist or the doctor. They I think it goes back and forth a little bit. But I think it was the dentist. That's how he was known, is the dentist. Um they were hired by the dentist to kill Dan Markel because of the issue with the divorce issues that he's experiencing with the sister of the dentist. Now, even if they did not commit this murder, or excuse me, even if they did not hire them to commit this murder, how would they know all of your personal business about the divorce and about custody and all that stuff? How would they know that? These two random Latin King gang members. I do want to say that Lewis was the Latin King. Sigfredo was not a Latin King. I think they get classified as Latin Kings, but only one of them was actually a Latin King. And Lewis, he makes it very clear that he was a Latin King. But it's a family, though. It's not a gang. Those are his words. Uh, so yeah, how would they know all your personal business like this? Fine, okay. So they are convicted. Sigfredo and Lewis are convicted. So they go one by one. Prosecution does it beautifully. They don't go after everyone. They don't go after all the players at once. No. They start making people sweat by hitting them one by one. So they do Sigfredo, they do Lewis. So I think Lewis was already in prison for um some other stuff because he was living that life. So he was already in prison. But they offer him, I believe they offer him a deal to if he testifies against Sigfredo, Catherine, Charlie, and I'm sure he's gonna be at Donna's trial as well, testifying his little heart out. They reduced his time. And honestly, I don't blame him for taking that deal. I don't blame him at all. And my fiance said, like, oh, well, he's a Latin king. He shouldn't, you're not supposed to snitch. You're not supposed to do that. And it's like, listen, that only goes but so far. At the end of the day, when your life is on the line and you know you're not going to see freedom again, do what you got to do. That's why I don't feel like there's any honor among thieves or criminals. There's no honor there. And you're a fool to expect honor there. Why would they be honorable when they're a criminal? You think they're going to be loyal to you as their homie when it's like, okay, it's me against you, when probably if you were in another gang or something, they would have killed you already. Like what? I don't understand that logic of not snitching in gangs. I don't understand gangs, but the whole not snitching thing is just beyond me. Why am I giving up my life for you? And really, as far as I understand it, Lewis was just in the car. He was just more so the driver. Sigfredo was the one who pulled the trigger. So anyway, so this is kind of the high level overview. They hired, it's seeming like, oh, what Charlie was convicted of was hiring Sigfredo and I want to say it was Luis Rivera. I don't want to make that up though. Let me see. Let me just do a quick search, guys. I'm gonna be really quick with it. But it seems like he was the one. I think it was Luis Rivera. Luis Rivera Adelson. Yes, it was Luis Rivera. Good memory, girl. Luis Rivera. Okay, so that was his last name. He's the one who testified and all that. I actually like him as a person. Let me rephrase that. I like how he came across during the when he testified. I just felt like, yes, he's a criminal, but I felt like he was very credible. I thought he was way more credible than Katherine Magbanua. I think she got off way too easy, if you ask me. I think she got a deal because, and they typically do this with women, and because she's a mother and she's still a criminal, she's still not a good person that we need out in society. I felt like Lewis had more morals than Catherine McManua, if you want to ask me. I think he was more of an upstanding citizen. He was way more honest. He tried his best to genuinely recall and speak to what actually happened. So, uh yes, so that was that. And oh, so how they all were connected, how Charlie was connected with these Latin kings was through Catherine McManua. He was dating Catherine McManua, who was a dental assistant in one of the offices that Charlie would work in. So Charlie would bounce between a few offices as a periodontal surgeon. He would go to different offices, different dental offices, and met a lot of different receptionists. Charlie was known somewhat as a playboy, and it seemingly like he had like a thing for Southeast Asian type women, which is that's his thing, go for it. But it was like he had a type, and when you see Catherine McManua, she was 100% his type, and that's how everything kind of got meshed in together because Catherine McManua was the baby mother of Sigfredo Garcia. Now, that's a whole nother thing for me. The fact that Sigfredo was willing to murder for her new her new dude when we know Sigfredo was obsessed and in love with Catherine McManua. And this does go to Charlie's defense. Charlie says, I was framed, I was set up. They are trying to extort me and blackmail me for this murder because they know that we did not like Dan Markel. And that's what they're doing to try to get back at me. You know, why would Sigfredo murder for me when I'm with his woman? He doesn't like me. And this is how he's getting back at me by framing me for this murder. Now, I will say it does lend to Charlie's defense because it is odd. But there's two things that Charlie leaves out. Money, you're going to pay him what you claim to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think it was supposed to be like $300,000 to hit, which I'm sorry, is an insane amount for a hit. I don't know what hit prices are, but I think $300,000 is excessive. I do, especially just to get some gang members. You're not talking about like the KGB coming in and doing it, where it's like you don't even know what happened to the person. You're talking about just some, Miami kind of gangster type guys, and they're just gonna shoot him. 300 grand? No. But anyway, I digress. Sigfredo went through with the murder for the money. You're missing out on that. You're missing out on that, and then the fact that Catherine, there's a sex appeal. There's a baby, do this for me, and I'll leave him alone. He's gonna pay us. We just need to get this money. We're just about getting this money. This is for us. Like I could see her selling that story to Sigfredo, and that is why he went along with it. And Lewis is just one of those ride or die kind of gangster guys that is just like, oh, we're about to ride. I'm with you. Let's go. He is that guy. So Lewis had no motive at all to do this, and turns out Lewis didn't even know the full amount that was going to be paid. I think the only one that knew the full amount was Katherine Magbanua. And then she then told Sigfredo it was going to be much less. I think she told him maybe like 100,000 or 60,000. And then they told Lewis it was going to be like 30,000 or something. So everyone got different amounts except for Katherine Magbanua, who seemingly got the most money out of this and the best criminal plea deal out of it as well. Actually, she didn't get a plea deal. She was convicted. She went to trial twice. The first time it was a hung jury, I believe, or mistrial, and then the second time she was just convicted. Anyway, I digress. So that kind of gives you a high level overview of, but there's so many more details, and as we go through this interrogation, or excuse me, through the direct examination, cross-examination, my mind is all over the place, then we can really get into the more of the details that have been left out. But this is one for the books. So just to finally close it out, Charlie Adelson, Donna Adelson, the mother, and Wendi Adelson have little bits and pieces all in this story. The only person I will say that is the furthest removed is Harvey Adelson, who is the father. He's the furthest removed. Do I think he still knew? Yes. And I think he was very much aware because there was a lot of literal cash flow that happened. Um, Side funny note, Donna Adelson was actually like physically washing the money before she gave it to Charlie to then give it to Katherine Magbanua. So when Katherine Magbanua got the money, she was like, why is the money wet? And Charlie goes, oh yeah, my mom washed it. Like to get what, fingerprints off of it? It's like a joke. I think and they would staple their money. Having stapled wash money is way more of an indicator that it was your money than anyone else's money. Who staples their money also? I guess when you have a lot of money, you start stapling it. I don't know, but I've never heard of that before. And then she washed it, literally in a sink with soap and water, washing the money. And then it was still wet when Catherine Magbanua had it. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's get into it. We're not gonna be able to cover the whole cross-examination because it's about a 2-hour cross-examination. But we're gonna get into it. And I will say, I have a very itchy nose. I don't know. It's like sometimes this happens, like my nose just itches. But anyway, um, Georgia Cappelman. Okay, Georgia Cappelman. If I've ever loved a prosecutor, it's Georgia Cappelman. Okay, if I could frame a picture of her and put it up on my wall, I probably would. Okay, I mean, I know I could, but I'm not going to do that. But Georgia Cappelman, there's just those few people that stick out to me, and she is one of them. She knows this case in and out because she has been prosecuting this case for almost 10 years. She was aware of it for the past 10 years, and she's well versed on it. She prosecuted everyone else that's been convicted on it. And the way she questions Charlie is a master class in cross-examination, prosecution. Her smug tone with him the entire time, I eat it up. I love every minute of it. So props to Georgia Cappelman. I cannot wait until Donna's trial. I cannot wait. I hope Donna takes the stand. I feel like she would have to take the stand to defend all of this crazy nonsense of this extortion and the wiretaps, between the wiretaps and the bump and the uh the actual paper trail of them paying Katherine Magbanua with checks, and then it's just it's so much that it's like, how do you expect to really get out of this? But again, going back to the Adelsons, we're the Adelsons. No one is better than us. We are the best. Okay, so that's that's where we are. So let's get right into it. I hope that gave you guys a good overview of the case, but honestly, there's so many details in this case that in order for me to explain all the details of it, that would be an hour video. So let's just get into the cross-examination. I have this sped up at 1.5 just to get through it somewhat timely, and of course, as we go through, I'll add my commentary.
Mr. Adelson, is it doctor?
It is, yes.
All right, doctor. Have you ever heard the saying that the simplest explanation is always the most likely? Have you heard that?
I've heard that theory before, yeah.
Was your explanation to the jury over the last little over a day the simplest explanation?
It was the truth.
You have a thorough explanation. Would you agree with that?
I told you what happened.
Do you agree that the only problem with having an explanation for everything is that there's just so many explanations?
There's no explanation. I explained what happened.
I want to go through some of that. You claim that you were extorted on July 18th, 2014 by Katherine Magbanua and also, in the background, some Latin kings, probably Garcia and Rivera, right? Is that accurate?
No, I wasn't extorted by Katherine Magbanua.
You weren't?
That's not what I believed in 2014.
Okay, I'm sorry. I understood you to say you believe that today.
Today I do, yes.
All right, so who extorted you?
Okay, so this is the part where Charlie, so oh wait a minute. Hold on, guys. I just realized I never transitioned over. My bad. My bad. We're just going to bring it back a little bit, guys. Let's just bring it back. Hold on 1 second. You guys know me. I try my best.
Is the most likely. Have you heard that?
I've heard that theory before, yeah.
Was your explanation to the jury over the last little over a day the simplest explanation?
It was the truth.
You have a thorough explanation. Would you agree with that?
I told you what happened.
Do you agree that the only problem with having an explanation for everything is that there's just so many explanations?
There's no explanation. I explained what happened.
I want to go through some of that. You claim that you were extorted on July 18th, 2014 by Katherine Magbanua and also, in the background, some Latin kings, probably Garcia and Rivera, right? Is that accurate?
No, I wasn't extorted by Katherine Magbanua.
You weren't?
That's not what I believed in 2014.
Okay, I'm sorry. I understood you to say you believe that today.
Today I do, yes.
All right, so who extorted you?
Okay, so this is Charlie Adelson basically saying that he was extorted. He believes today he was extorted by Katherine Magbanua, but back then he didn't think he was extorted. It makes no sense, obviously, but we let Charlie tell the story. I think that's a good idea.
Mr. Adelson, is it doctor?
It is, yes.
All right, doctor. Have you ever heard the saying that the simplest explanation is always 18th, 2014. 3 years she was in the Leon. Right, but as you sit here today, you think it's Magbanua, Garcia, and Rivera. Is that accurate?
No, that's not accurate.
Okay. Who extorted you?
As I sit here today, I believe that it was Katherine Magbanua, and I believe Sigfredo Garcia, but I don't know for sure. I was never there when she was ever talking to him, so I don't know if he was in on it with her or not.
All right. At the time, though, you did not think she was guilty. You got that right. The time of the extortion.
In 2014?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And then so exactly when you found out would be, I think you said, her trial.
That I suspected that she was not telling me the truth and she was a part of it was in 2019.
At her trial?
Yes.
All right. And so she was arrested in 2016, right?
Yes.
All right. So for 3 years, she was in the Leon County Jail awaiting trial, yes?
She was there.
And you believed she was innocent.
Yes.
And you had this whole explanation to assist with exonerating her, right?
I have the truth of what happened, yes.
But you didn't offer the truth of what happened, did you?
Nobody.
Facts. So if you thought that Katherine Magbanua was innocent when she was first arrested back in 2016, why didn't you come to her defense and say, no, she was being blackmailed or extorted by the Latin Kings. She's innocent. She did nothing wrong. Why didn't you come out to support her then? Typically, you're not going to come out if you're all part of a crime ring together. You're not going to come out and say, hey, by the way, let me throw my name in the mix. You're not going to do that. You want to stay as far apart from this person as possible, which is exactly what he did.
Came to me. I thought the truth would come out.
Does someone have to come to you?
I was told not to talk to Katie and not to talk to anybody about this case by counsel.
Okay. So you strike that. On day one, which is July 18th, 2014, she is the only one that physically contacted you to conduct this extortion. Am I correct in that?
Yes, you are.
So you never actually had any contact with any Latin King?
No.
No phone calls?
No phone calls.
No texts?
No.
No letters?
Well, in 2016, you're talking about 14, right?
I'm talking about the first layer of the extortion. Did you have any contact with the thugs that were getting your money for 2 years?
No.
Did anybody put a gun to your head?
I was told that I would be killed in 48 hours if I didn't pay up.
I heard you say that, but my question is, did anyone put a gun to your head?
You're asking me, did anyone pull a gun on me?
That's what
Is
I
that your
asked
question?
you.
No, nobody pulled.
I love how he condescendingly tries to ask her back the questions like, oh, so you're asking if anyone pulled a gun on me? No, no one has pulled a firearm on me, which is what he's going to say. It's like, Charlie, your story doesn't make any sense. Anyone can see that your story does not make any sense. Why in the world would you think that someone who comes to you and says, hey, my Latin King friends murdered this person that you know, and you have to pay them. But you don't think that person is extorting you. You just think the Latin Kings are extorting them and then you. It's like, if you're coming to me asking me for the money, you're the problem. Why are you asking me for the money? You don't even know. What if the Latin Kings don't even exist? I don't know. I have to figure out why that happens. I don't know what that is.
Firearm on me.
All right, so when Katherine Magbanua came to you on July 18th and said, open the safe and give me all your money, she was not armed.
She was not carrying a gun that day,
And
no.
were you armed at that time? Did you have a weapon in your home?
I had weapons in my safe, yes.
Were you led to believe or told that the bad guys are outside, right outside your apartment or your residence?
No, but I was led to believe what they did to Dan they were going to do to me.
I heard you say that, but my question is, did she say, like, the car's running, I'm going to take the money out there to him right now?
No, she never told me that they were waiting for me outside my house.
In fact, she stayed the night with you, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
And didn't exit your house with your $138,000 until the next day, right?
Correct.
Again, if this person he doesn't believe she's extorting him at that time, but if this person is asking you for this money, why are you letting them stay in your house? If you come to my house and take $150,000 out of my safe, you're not staying at my house. I don't trust you. But for whatever reason, Katherine Magbanua's story is they took some Xanax and went to bed because they were really hyped up over the murder that was just done on their behalf.
And the money, the $138,000, was that stapled into $1,000 increments?
Each packet was $1,000, and had a staple in it.
And stapling money's a little unusual. Would you agree with that?
For me, it wasn't unusual. That's what I did.
Right, but nobody else does it. That's why I'm suggesting it's unusual.
I've never questioned people into how they keep their money, whether they keep it in a staple or a paper clip or an envelope. I just know what I do.
Would you agree, doctor, that it's a compelling piece of evidence that the killers were paid in stapled money and came up with that information in this case?
It's not compelling. The people who extorted me and got my money got it from my house, and it was stapled in my house.
They had to have gotten it from you, right? Because it was stapled.
If they got it from Katie, they got it from me.
So it had to be some kind of, I paid, but I did it under duress, based on that piece of evidence, right? That had to be built.
Exactly. Exactly. This is why I love Georgia. She does not mince words. She is straight to the point, and she is calling him out on everything. Charlie knows he has to say that he paid, because he did pay. It's clear and evident when they're getting staple wet money, when it definitely came from your house. But you have to come up with a story as to why you paid. And this is what he's trying his best to do. And he's failing miserably.
Into your defense.
I was extorted, and I paid the money.
All right, so Katie comes in and she's in a panic and she tells you what's happened. And I need all the money in your safe right now. Do you suspect that maybe she's working with the police at that point? Maybe she's trying to set you up?
No, she didn't say I need all the money in their safe. That's not what she said.
Did she take all the money in your safe?
I cleaned out all the money in my safe and handed it to her.
Right. Why did you do that?
Because I was being extorted for $250,000.
But why didn't you? The bump was only $5,000, and you immediately became suspicious and questioning and had all these conversations and deliberations about what to do about it for days. And when Katie comes to you,
Let's just talk about the bump quickly. So the bump was law enforcement coming to Donna Adelson in Miami and sending an undercover police officer who I think they could have gotten someone way better. Like his lingo was so police enforcement. I wasn't impressed with him. I wouldn't have fallen for that. But easier said than done, right? Hindsight's 2020. But basically this fake he pretends to be a Latin king. This fake Latin king comes up to Donna and it's like, "Oh, the way you're taking care of Katie, I want to make sure my people are taken care of like that." And they ask for $5,000. And what George is bringing up is the fact that they start freaking out over this. It's like, why are they asking me for $5,000? How dare they ask me for $5,000? But yet you're willing to clear out your safe for $140,000 and not even think twice about it when some random person just says, let me get five, due to the same thing, saying like, hey, you're taking care of Katie, you need to take care of me too. That's a problem for you. The five is a problem, but the 140 isn't. Doesn't make any sense.
you just open the safe and give her the money, right?
That's what I did, and there's a big difference between the two.
Okay, well, the way that it was done to you, is that the way it's done?
You have to be more specific.
Well, on the wire, you say repeatedly, that's not the way it's done. You knew that the undercover agent was law enforcement, or at least strongly suspected, because that's not the way it's done. And my question to you is, since you're an expert on extortion, because you've been extorted before and that's how you knew that's not the way it's done, is this the way it's done? Do extortionists send a girlfriend of their victim to collect their extortion money? Is that the way it's done, doctor?
I'm telling you what happened to me, and I was told that if I didn't pay in 48 hours, I would be killed. The person that came and extorted my mom, it was not the same approach as what happened to me.
Is that the only way? That's the only way it's done? They send the girlfriend?
It's the only time I've ever been extorted like that.
Okay. And did you hear any of the negotiations? So they come in and they say, strike. They come in and they say, we need $333,000.
You need to pay $333,000.
You need to pay $333,000. Why not $1 million?
Because when I had told to Katie that the $1 million offer for Dan Markel, I said I was going to pay $333,000. And when she asked me, do you have that much money? And I said, yeah, I could pay it in cash. So she took it as I had cash, and she knew I had.
So what they're referring to is there was an offer made to Dan Markel to just basically leave, like to leave the Adelsons alone, basically have no contact with his kids, just leave. And of course, Dan didn't want to take that offer, but they offered him $1 million to do so. The Adelsons did, and Charlie was gonna put up a third of that $1 million. To me, if you're willing to put up $1/3 of $1 million to have something happen, you're willing to murder for that same thing. I think so. And I shouldn't say it like that. Maybe there are things you would put up money for, but you wouldn't murder for. But the sensitivity of the topic and the fact that you know you want this man away from his children, I think you're willing to murder for it.
A ton of cash in my safe. So she thought I had the cash. I didn't have all that cash. So that's where I'm assuming they got the third of $1 million from.
But the offer that she bragged about was $1 million offer, isn't that right? That she ran her mouth about.
I was never there when she spoke to her friend.
Okay, was it $1 million offer?
The offer was that $1 million was going to be paid, and I was going to pay a third of $1 million.
And weren't you going to cover Wendy's third as well?
No, not at all. I was going to cover my third.
Didn't your lawyer say in opening statement that you were going to cover the whole thing, or Wendy's third?
No, I was sitting here. I heard what he said. Charlie was going to pay a third of $1 million.
All right. And so the offer was $1 million offer, and that's what you told Katie, along with the fact that you were going to cover the third.
I was telling her that I was going to pay a third of $1 million, yeah. And then one day, if my sister was able to, she was going to pay me back.
And then you didn't have the amount of money that was being demanded at the time, right?
No, I only had what I had.
All right. And at that point, the blackmailer, Katherine Magbanua, negotiates some type of layaway plan for you to complete the extortion with the Latin Kings.
Okay, Katie wasn't the blackmailer, and Katie wasn't the one who was extorting me.
Didn't you just tell this jury that Katie was the blackmailer? You realized it in 2019.
I had thought that when you were just talking, you were talking.
This has to be the funniest part to me, is that Charlie has to keep this story straight. So he has to keep saying that Katie was not blackmailing him back in 2014, but she was the blackmailer. So what he's saying is, well, she wasn't blackmailing me. And what Georgia Cappelman is saying, but she was blackmailing you. You're saying that she was. And he's like, well, I didn't know that she was. And it's like, but you know it now. I cannot with Charlie.
2014. You were talking about that night,
Okay.
so that's night happened in
Doctor.
2014.
Okay. We all know now, because you have revealed the puzzle piece. She's a blackmailer. Can we agree on that?
I believe, sitting here in 2023,
Yes.
that she was in on the extortion for sure.
Yes. So is it okay if I refer to her as a blackmailer?
I think there's a difference between blackmail and extortion, but yeah,
Okay.
sitting here today, we can. Sure.
We'll refer to her as an extortionist. So this woman, the extortionist, is going to do you a solid by negotiating with the Latin Kings for you to get on a payment plan for the extortion. Isn't that what happened?
What you're doing is you're taking what we know in 2003 and trying to say, this is what I knew in 2014.
Did she put you on a payment plan?
Yes, she said, because I didn't have the money, she said, ask me if I could pay $3,000 a month in 2014, and I said, yes, I can.
Who does that? I don't know who has committed crimes before. Even if you're not committing a crime, just think about any business deal. Who does that? Who is allowing you to pay them? You're supposed to pay them half a million, or excuse me, $250,000, but I'll let you pay me $3,000 a month on a payment plan? Who does that? Yet they said they were going to kill you in 48 hours if you didn't give them the money. So you're going to tell me that these extortionists want to keep in contact with you for however long it takes you to pay off that rest of the money?
Did you hear any of the conversation where she was making these negotiations on your behalf?
No, when she said, I'm going to go check with my friend, and if that's okay with him, she took her purse, took her keys, took her cell phone, she walked out of my front door, closed the door behind her, and I sat in my living room, and she came back about 5 minutes later.
You didn't want to talk to the guy yourself?
No, I didn't even think of that. But she went outside to call him.
All right, and then the two of you took a Xanax.
That's also ridiculous, because if you know anything about Charlie and if you follow like the way Charlie is, there's no way in hell that Charlie is paying someone $150,000, or 140 is 138,000. You're not giving somebody $140,000 and you don't know who they are. That Charlie would never do that. He would never do that. He 100% is the type of person that is going to ask a million questions. And the way we know this is when you listen to the wiretaps, he cannot contain himself. When the bump happens, he must know all the details. He asked his mom a million questions and she's trying to push him off and say, like, we'll talk about it later. But he's not taking that as an answer. No, I don't believe that for a second.
And went to sleep.
Well, I took a Xanax. I don't know if she took one out of the bottle, but I definitely did.
And the next morning, she left with your money, right?
So that's about 8:30 the next morning.
That's July 19th, 2014.
Correct.
Let's talk about what you did that day. You did not report this to the police because you were in fear, correct?
Absolutely.
And you didn't report this to Wendi, even though, according to you, her life was in danger too, correct?
Potentially, but I planned on paying the extortion every month.
All right. But you did go to the gym that morning, right? Can we show that text, please? Were you able to go to the gym the next morning?
I absolutely didn't leave the house. I worked out at Nova Southeastern Gym. You can check the gym records. I was never there.
Okay. Did you say you were going to the gym?
I said I was, yeah.
But you didn't actually go?
No, I didn't leave the house.
All right. So would you agree, Doctor, and we'll refresh your memory with them if we can, that the text messages that were exchanged between yourself and Katherine Magbanua on the morning after this exchange of money were inconsistent with your extortion theory?
They were inconsistent with how I was feeling.
They don't appear to look like you just gave her $138,000 under duress, do they?
She told me, the last thing she said to me before she left the house is, can we just pretend like this never even happened? So when I sent her that message, I was trying to show her, like, I'm trying to forget all about it.
Yeah, you were just demonstrating to her that you would agree to pretend nothing happened, right?
Absolutely, that's what she asked me to do, and that's what I tried to do.
All right. So the text messages aren't what they appear to be. It's a beautiful day, I'm going to the pool, I'm going to the beach, I'm going to the gym. None of that is what it appears to be. It's something else.
I absolutely did not go to the gym. I was trying to show her that I was, pretending like nothing ever happened and looking past it.
And there's nothing on the wire. All those hours of you talking.
What's ironic about that is if you commit a crime with someone, wouldn't you want to make it seem like nothing happened? That's what you would do. You would do exactly that. You would continue on with your conversation and never bring it up again. Opposed to if someone's actually extorting you, I don't think I would be too chipper to talk to them. Oh, she's not the extortionist yet. Well, she collected the money for the extortionist. I still wouldn't be chipper.
There is nothing on the wire about the extortion, this layer 1 of extortion, because she told you not to talk about it, right?
She told me to never talk about anything to anyone or her. She never wanted to hear about it again.
Yesterday, in your testimony, between you and your attorney, you mentioned the word extortion 123 times. Would you take my word for that?
I'm sure it came up a lot.
Okay. But nowhere, even in the midst of this whole second extortion that's happening again, it's an extension of the same thing, do you mention anything about this layer 1 of the extortion? Do you?
Yes, actually I did.
Okay.
If you pull up the video from Matsuri when I was sitting with my dad, and I said, and the funny thing is, that's what I whispered in his ear.
Right, but we can't hear that.
Right, because that's my point. I never wanted anybody to hear what had happened. I never wanted the police to come.
The one time he mentions the extortion is when he whispered in his dad's ear and no one else could hear it. Duh. That's the time you mention it. When you know no one else is listening, you're going to whisper about the extortion. No one else could hear about it. But you definitely talked about it. Okay.
Talk to me, but if you put up that video, you'll actually see me saying that it's my dad's ear, and that's why I went in and said it. And that's what we were talking about at the time. So
At Matsuri, the only time you mention the extortion, it's in a whisper that is not picked up by the microphones, right?
Intentionally, yes.
Yes. And that was intentional at the time, but it sucks for your defense, right? Because that would be a huge piece of evidence for you to show this jury, wouldn't it?
No, I think you'd come up with a reason why that I said it anyway.
And there's nobody to corroborate this testimony?
There is.
Okay. And the Matsuri, you talked about it again out in the parking lot, right? Wasn't that your testimony?
I just want to say that Charlie, of course, he just has to say there is someone that could corroborate, which would be Harvey Adelson, which has not been called because obviously we know why. It's ridiculous.
Yes, we spoke in the parking lot.
Okay, so you did talk about the extortion.
That's
you just didn't do it in a way that it was captured on any of the recordings in this case.
Well, we spoke when we had privacy.
Well, you had privacy on the phone, right?
When?
At least you thought you had privacy on the phone. Every time when you were talking on the phone for
No,
hundreds of hours on this wire.
There's always a chance that I was being listened to.
Okay.
I mean,
well, there was a chance you were being listened to when you whispered in Dad's ear, right? But you said it. And you were talking about it.
I whispered real quietly into his ear, so I thought I had privacy. At that point, I thought I had privacy.
And Katherine Magbanua and you discussed this first layer of extortion in the car outside of Dolce Vita too, right?
That's when I found out everything that was going on, and she opened up when I
But
confronted
if
her.
this jury could hear that conversation recorded, we would all be hearing basically what you're telling us, that there was an extortion effort that predated the undercover operation. Wouldn't
Right.
we?
Because I was trying to see if Sigfredo was behind the extortion of my mom, because I knew he was behind. Always had a feeling he was behind what happened to me, and she was having this explosive fight with him, and it was going on the same exact time that my mom started getting extorted. So I thought that he was going after my mom.
Don't you wish that that conversation in the car had been recorded?
I don't know.
Wouldn't it prove your theory?
Yeah.
No, Charlie doesn't want anything recorded. If this was truly an extortion and he was truly innocent, being on wiretaps would not be the issue, because on the wiretaps you would be consistently saying how you're being extorted and how this is not right and how it's not fair. The same way he's been on every other wiretap from the jailhouse and from when he was convicted, and just basically saying this isn't fair. The jury, the Tallahassee jury, they're not sophisticated. They're, layman kind of people. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that Charlie thinks that we would believe that he would not be moaning the entire time about this, when that's what he does. That's his MO. He moans about everything. So, no, no, Charlie, we're not falling for it.
What you're talking about, the
If I
prior
think about it,
extortion.
then you know exactly what happened back then.
But unfortunately, it wasn't recorded, and then everything that was recorded inside the restaurant, you don't mention it, right?
I'm speaking very carefully. I mean, and I still, even when I was in the car with Katie, she was doing most of the talking. That was the first time she really opened up, and I think I caught her off guard. I was still, even when I spoke to her in the car, I was real careful. I said, was T behind what happened to me? Like, I wouldn't even say the words to her when I was in the car.
Okay, was T behind what happened to me? Do you say anything anywhere on the wire about referencing what happened to me? Meaning, what happened to me before?
No, because that was the only time I ever confronted her. But I did actually when I would be on the wire with my mom, and I would say it's not the same person. Like, that was in reference to what happened to me, and she
What
knew
call
that.
do you say it's not the same person?
Okay, you want to know what call? It was
Yeah.
Tuesday, the 26th.
I love yeah, you want to know what call? I'll tell you what call. Like, Charlie really thinks that he is outsmarting everyone right now. He thinks he's so convincing. I think because he's lived his life as a lie for so many years, where he walks around and acts like he's so cool and acts like he's down. He has connections. He has the Cuban connections. He acts like he's like this guy, and he's really not. He's just a dentist, really.
And I said it's at the end of the call. It was a 2-minute and something call.
April 26th?
April 26, 2016. It was a 2-minute and something call. It was towards the very end. And I go, I know it's not done like this. It's 48 hours, just enough time. It's not the same person. So you can look it up.
Okay, I'm with you. It's not the same person you were referencing as the person that blackmailed me years ago, and has been blackmailing me for years.
Yeah,
That's what you meant.
It's not the same person that's extorting me, correct?
All right. So I want to go back to Wendi. Wendi is in the process of relocating from Tallahassee to South Florida, basically the day that this is going on, day after the money drop, right?
They're packing up the car. They're coming back here.
So she's going to be moving significantly closer to the killers that had threatened her life.
This what I don't. She wasn't planning. It wasn't a permanent move or anything that was planned. I think she took a suitcase with her.
But she's your family member, yes. She's much closer to the one they've already killed than you, right?
Say it again.
She's much closer. She's got much deeper connections to the person they've already killed. That's Dan Markel, than you do.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason to fear for her safety, because these killers have come, they've just killed Dan, and now they're saying they're going to kill another one. It could be Wendi, right?
She has no idea what's going on.
Exactly. But you let her move from Tallahassee to Miami, where you knew the
Exactly. Why would you let her move down to Miami, closer to the killers who you know were involved? Why?
killers were located. That's my point. Do you agree with that?
The killers were able to find Dan Markel in Tallahassee. They have the car.
They were. But would you rather live in Tallahassee or in Miami if the killers are in Miami?
I think if these people want to find you, they'll find you.
Okay.
I don't think. I mean, looking at Luis Rivera, I don't think a distance would stop them.
Okay. Where did Wendi and the boys live when she first moved to South Florida?
When she first moved to South Florida, she moved in with my parents into a small apartment. They actually had to get another apartment because that one was too small.
With your parents?
She moved in with them, yeah.
And I want to talk about the cameras. You bought cameras for the Adelson Institute and your home at Whale Harbor, right?
Yes.
The camera system? Yeah. All right. And what about Wendy's? I guess she didn't have a place. So, like, wherever she was staying with your parents, were cameras installed there as well at that same time frame that you installed these cameras?
No, I never told her what happened, but they lived in a very secure building.
Isn't it true, Doctor, that you'd been planning to install those cameras for some time before the murder?
I actually already had cameras at my house that I had installed in 2008. The technology from 2008 to 2014 had changed a lot when it came to cameras.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think you mentioned all that on direct. I'm referring to this particular update that was done post-homicide, you were in communication with this camera guy, and I think your lawyer mentioned this. You had 84 text messages with him dating back to January 20th of 2014 in regards to the update that occurred post-murder. Do you agree with that?
I know. There was always talk that we were going to get cameras in the office, and we just never got around to it. When this happened, that week, within probably 3 days, I called the camera guy up and I said, I want to get cameras in my house, and my new cameras for my house, and I want to get cameras in my office. How soon can you come out and do it? And then he came out, I'd say 4 or 5 days after that, bought the equipment, and installed it that week.
Did you hire a private investigator to help you with this whole problem you were having?
With the extortion?
Yes.
No, I didn't tell anybody.
Did you get a bodyguard?
No, I carried a gun on me, and I always sleep with a gun next to me in bed, and I carried a gun on my person and had a gun in my car at all times.
Do you recall a statement you made on the Dolce Vita recording that said you were going to start carrying a gun?
Yeah, because for a long time after this happened, I was carrying a gun, and it's uncomfortable, and I don't always like carrying a gun, so I hadn't carried a gun in a while, and I was going to start carrying one again.
But you did say...
The Dolce Vita is a restaurant. It was a Mexican restaurant where they had them tapped. And during that, yeah, he does say that, but I also feel like that is because of the bump event. That's not because of the initial extortion. The bump that happens later on is what prompts Charlie to say, "Oh, maybe I should start carrying a gun."
2016, I'm going to start carrying one.
Yeah, I carried probably for about 4 to 6 months after this happened, and I wear scrubs, so the gun that I had can kind of stick out, and it's uncomfortable. I prefer not to carry a gun.
So you quit carrying it, but during the time you were still paying the extortion money?
Yes.
All right, and the extortion money that you were paying, $3,000 a month, that wasn't going towards the principal of whatever was left on the $333,000, right? Didn't you testify to that?
Correct.
All right, so you never came up with the remaining bulk of the money that you owed?
Never.
And nobody ever came after you for that?
No, they said you could pay it all off and it'll be done, or just pay $3,000 a month. So I thought about paying the full amount.
What extortion is? What criminal is doing that? Oh, whatever's more convenient for you. However you can pay me, just do it that way. No big deal. No big deal. Who does that? Charlie, it doesn't make any sense.
All right, then a couple weeks later, after the initial extortion, you and Katherine Magbanua broke up, according to your direct. Do I have that right?
That's not correct.
When did you break up?
Within a week. I met her, we went out to dinner, we went out to eat, and I just said, this has got to end.
All right, so you broke up with her.
Yes.
Weren't you scared that if you broke up with her that she would sick the Latin Kings on you?
No, because I had every intention of paying every month. When I broke up with her and I said, listen, I don't want to surround myself with this. I'm scared. She said that she was going to come every month and pick up the money and protect me. And she understood. I mean, our relationship was on the rocks.
But you testified that all the gifts and stuff that you gave her were to keep her happy, right?
Yeah, when I realized that she's the one who's protecting me and she wasn't a part of this extortion, I had no problem keeping her happy.
So why would you break up with her if she was the one that was protecting you? That does not even make any sense. If you're still going to keep paying this person, you would then keep the relationship going so you don't end up dead, right? None of it makes any sense, Charlie. It doesn't.
And I looked for things to do, nice things to do for her because she was broke.
But not worried about pissing her off by breaking up with her.
Well, our relationship was definitely on the rocks. After July 1st, when Sigfredo cut me off and threatened me and called my dad, and then she knew I didn't even invite her to my dad's birthday party, which was a family gathering with family friends on July 5th. She knew we were going to be done.
After you broke up with Katherine Magbanua a week after the murder, did you continue to talk to her?
We still communicated, for sure.
Talk on the phone?
And texted, yeah.
And meet up?
No, the only time I would see her was I saw her again at the end of August. She came and picked up the money, and that's when she asked me if I could put her on the books because none of this money was going to her and she needed to get health insurance for her kids. So I said, yeah, I'll do it and help you out.
And did you continue to hook up with her after the breakup? And by that I mean, have sex with her?
There was one occasion. There was one time that we hooked up.
Okay, when was that?
I want to say it was probably about 5 months after we broke it up.
Okay, well there was one other occasion before that in October of 2014. Do you recall that? October 9th of 2014?
That's probably the occasion I'm talking about. It's July. Let me count the months. July, August, September, October. So okay, so 4 months.
Okay, and there's another one on October 15th. You remember that one?
No, I think we did hook up about one time.
Okay, well one time on October 9th and one time on October 15th.
I thought it was one time. If it was 2 times, it's been.
Could it have been 2 times?
But no more.
Okay. And on August 25th, 14, that would have been after the breakup, right?
Yeah.
You text her And then she replies, I don't need help, I'm good. Don't need favors, nor will I trust anyone again. Erase my number, please. Go on with your life like you did already and have been doing. Sorry we spoke today. I don't want to stress your life more. Don't do anything for me. Do you remember receiving that text from Katherine Magbanua?
Yeah, sounds familiar.
And that's a pretty weird text to get from the extortionist. You're meeting her to give her money. Why is she saying erase my number?
She's not the extortionist.
Okay.
But she was the extortionist, Charlie. I understand then you're claiming you didn't know she was the extortionist, but now you know she's the extortionist, so why would she say that? What extortionist says delete my number? Wouldn't you want to get paid? That sounds like if you have committed a murder with someone and then you realize they just used you to commit a murder with them and they actually don't care about you. That's a type of text message you would get from that person.
On
In
9/11,
in 2014, I didn't think she was the extortionist.
right, but it's been revealed that she was.
In 2019, so you're taking what was known in 2019, and you're trying to say I knew what I knew in 1914.
I'm not trying to say you knew. I'm trying to say that she knew. She knew she was the extortionist. Why is she telling you to erase her number and leave her alone?
Because I broke up with her.
Exactly. On 9/11 of 14, she sends you hashtag bestie for life. Do you remember that?
It sounds familiar.
So did you all have some kind of reconciliation after the breakup?
No, I was probably doing a favor and making her happy with something.
On
Probably borrowed some
10/6
money.
of 2014, I love you. It makes me feel good that you care about me. I'm lucky to have you as part of my life. Do you remember sending that to her?
Yeah.
On 10/9 of 14, I mentioned the sex talk. I won't go into the details of it. Again, 10/15, more sex talk. 10/23 of 14, thank you again for everything you're doing for my mommy. She sends you that. What were you doing for her mother?
I don't know. I think I did a consult for her, but I didn't do anything for her mom.
2/24 of 15, you agree that she always knows how to make you smile, and you say I love you to her. Remember that?
Yeah.
Is this the type of text messages you would have with someone extorting you? Even if you claim you don't know that she's the extortionist, you still gave her $140,000, $138,000, plus the monthly checks that you've been sending to her, plus 3,000, every so often. It doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense.
I cared a lot about Katie, and I didn't think that she was a part of this. So I was always trying to keep her happy and make her happy, and I felt like she got dragged into something that she shouldn't have been dragged into.
Okay, maybe, but she dragged you into it as well.
I didn't see it like that at all. And our relationship actually got stronger. Initially when I got extorted, I had.
Okay, your relationship would get stronger when you commit a murder with someone, but I'm sorry. You feel like she got dragged into it, but she dragged you into it. None of this aligns with who Charlie is. If you know who Charlie is and you know the way he acts, none of this aligns with it. It's it it he is not the type of person to feel sympathy for someone else. He's not. He cares about himself. At this point, I would barely say he cares about Wendi right now at this point. I think he actually dislikes Wendi at this point. So it doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense for him to say that he cared about her and their relationship got stronger.
Made contact with her, and I was cold to her. And then over time, I realized that she's the one who's protecting me, and she's not involved with these people because the extortion never went up, and Katie was always broke.
She was involved with them because she had a child with the guy, right?
I didn't know for sure it was him,
But you suspected always that it was him.
I always suspected that Sigfredo was behind this.
So
yeah.
wouldn't you want to distance yourself from this woman who, were you ever really that serious about her to begin with?
We spent 7-8 months together.
But you were never considering marrying her.
No, I wasn't considering that.
You were a playboy, right? You had a zillion girlfriends.
That is actually not even true.
Okay. Did you have a lot of girlfriends?
I had 2 girlfriends in the 2 or 3 years after her. I dated Whitney Kick for 9 months.
Okay, but how many women were you talking to and engaging with sexually? A lot more than Whitney Kick, right?
There could have been 1 or 2.
Or more?
No.
Okay. Point being, you were not going to marry Katherine Magbanua.
I wasn't having marriage plans, no.
Okay. And you have now broken up with her after this incident.
Yes.
She's the person that's taking the money from you physically.
She's the one. I looked at it. She's the one who's protecting me. If she wasn't, I was going to get a visit
Is
from
she
somebody.
the one that was physically taking the money?
Yes.
Is she the one that was connected to the person you suspected to have killed your brother-in-law?
I thought she was tied to that person. Yes.
And She's the one that got you into this, right? Because she ran her mouth,
And
right?
I looked at that I ran my mouth too. And if I never said anything to her, this would never have happened. So I felt responsible for saying something to her in the first place.
But you didn't feel responsible enough to try to do anything about her sitting in jail, an innocent woman, for 3 years. Did you?
She never
This is ridiculous. Every time I watch this, it's so ridiculous. You can listen in the jailhouse calls how angry Charlie is with Wendi for driving past Dan Markel's house on the day of the murder. But yet, Charlie wants us to believe that he felt bad for Catherine because he ran his mouth about the offer they were going to make, not about murdering, about just about the offer they were going to make to Dan to just leave them alone, and they'll give him $1 million. Just leave them alone. He feels bad about that, but he feels bad for her that he put her in that situation.
contacted me.
You didn't offer to testify in her trial. You let her get convicted and get life in prison, didn't you?
I thought the truth was going to come out.
But not through you.
I was never contacted. I thought it was going to come out through her.
Was there any contact between your lawyers and her lawyers?
You'd have to ask them.
You said you didn't have any contact with her.
I
Did you have
had
any
zero contact with her.
So your lawyers didn't tell you anything on behalf of her lawyers?
Absolutely not.
And her lawyers didn't hear anything from your lawyers?
I don't know what lawyers talk about, but I can tell you that I never talked to Katie, and I never told my lawyers.
You never relayed a message through your lawyers that the Adelson family would not be talking in this case?
Absolutely not.
And she had nothing to worry about as far as that end was concerned?
That's not true at all.
Did you or your agent contact her brother to offer to assist with her attorney's fees in her case?
That's a complete lie.
On 10/27 of 15, you say you can't wait to get lunch with her. She's the best, and you're lucky to have her as a friend for life. Did you say that?
Yes.
10/27/15, you can't wait to get lunch with her. 10/30/15, you tell her you miss her. 12/9 of 15, again, you tell her she's the best.
Yeah, I said all those things.
Do you agree that this picture does not look like a relationship between an extortionist and her victim?
I agree, because Katie wasn't the extortionist.
She was the extortionist.
In 2014 and
No.
2015, I didn't believe that.
I know you didn't believe it, but we're looking back now, okay?
You know, it's like if you're going to quote me, date me. Like, what I knew in 2014 and what I knew in 2015 is not what I know now in 2023.
Okay, yes.
That is irrelevant, Charlie. We know it now. We know it now. So what you're saying does not make any sense. Even if you did not believe she was the extortionist back then, you know she is now. So why are you trying to act like, or let me even say, okay, so he knows that she is now. But even back when she was arrested, you would have known then. Because of all the stuff that came out in the trial. Why is he trying to act like he just found out that she was the extortionist when she was the only person he had contact with? Who else is extorting you? You don't even know if these other people exist.
Hear you. You didn't know then, and that's why you were nice to her.
Yeah, I thought she was protecting me.
Got it. And none of those factors that I pointed out weighed into that consideration. That she ran her mouth, that she brought the Latin Kings on you, she was taking the money from you. None of that counterbalanced it. You were still going to be friends with her and keep her happy.
You're wrong. I didn't know about the Latin Kings in 2014 or 2015.
Right. The love text, which is what I'm referring to all these texts, where you're still nice to this person after you break up with her, you're still doing favors for this person after you break up with her, and that's like a major problem for your defense, isn't it?
No, our relationship got stronger. I agree. Our relationship got stronger, but it was much different.
Isn't that why she has to be an innocent conduit between you and the bad guys? Because if those texts didn't exist, she would be the extortionist and the bad actor in this whole thing, right?
I'm not following your theory.
You have to explain away those texts, don't you, Doctor?
No, I have to sit here and tell you the truth. Now you're finding it out.
Okay, we're going to pause it here, and we're going to pick it up again with the next one. I cannot, I don't like when people try to lie to my face and they think that I'm an idiot, which is what I feel like Charlie's doing. Now, I told you I've watched this plenty of times, so I know his demeanor. I know he's his MO in that regard. But just kudos to Georgia Cappelman again. I must say, I just love how she gives us a master class in cross examination. I will say that Charlie handles it very well, but not well enough. Okay, there's so much evidence that is against them in this case, and I cannot wait. I'll say it again. I cannot wait for Donna's trial, and I cannot wait for them to charge Wendi. They don't have as much on Wendi, but I think they could still charge her, and I think she would be convicted. So we'll end it here for now. I appreciate you guys for joining and staying for the ride. We will pick it up exactly where we left off. We are at the 36-minute mark of the interrogation. We'll pick it up there. And thank you guys so much. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. All right, see you guys again soon. Bye.